Okay, so today we're looking at Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Does it feel like Indiana Jones? Because when you're playing an Indiana Jones game, you want to feel...
It's pretty essential, yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Well, 100%, yeah. And I think actually that is what makes the game... It is a game with flaws. None of those flaws are terrible. None of those flaws means you shouldn't buy the game. It does have one or two issues, but the main thing, what makes it absolutely fantastic is you are Indiana Jones. You're not just in a film, you are Indiana Jones. It's a first-person perspective, which obviously means you're not looking at him for a longer time. But when you put your whip absolutely against a vine or something and swing across, then it just jumps into third person for a moment, and you just see him in that iconic outfit, that hat, and you just see, I'm Indy.
Brings back memories of good old films.
Absolutely, and you know, all of the it's based around three. There are a few sort of linear sections, and then there are three big hubs, and those three, the game does actually open with a sort of recreation of the beginning of Raids of the Lost Ark. I just had to think what the first one was called there for a moment, which is really nice. Obviously, a linear bit. But then the three main hubs, you've got the Vatican City, which is really, really beautifully designed, actually. You've got Giza after that, the desert. And the final hub is in Siam, I think. Which is...
I won't ask you where Siam is.
It's called Thailand now. Yeah, I had to really think about that. I know it's Thailand, but they called it. Yeah, obviously Thailand used to be called Siam. So
yeah.
So basically, you've got Vatican City, which you know what Vatican City looks like. You've got all the the cathedrals. You've got Giza, which is the desert. So again, a very indie centric. You've got the pyramids in the background and all that, and then Siam is essentially the jungle. So it's a bit like the opening. You can go around, you can do the missions at your own pace. It does have a list of missions that sort of becomes populated as you play. Although I will just raise one issue I had. Very occasionally, it will offer you a mission that you can't actually complete yet. So, for example, one of the missions, I think it was Giza, actually, and I was looking for a mission. It was showing me the entrance of the mission was in this section.
But you couldn't get to that section.
I couldn't get in there, no. I sort of did a circuit of the map, just trying to find a way.
Laps around a lap.
And then it wasn't until later on in the game that I realised you had to do a story mission that unlocked that. It got you into that section. I thought, okay, well, you shouldn't really be offering...
showing you that mission until you can actually be there.
Yeah, so that was one of the issues that I alluded to earlier, yeah.
So we established it feels like indie,
100%,
like the old movies. You know, it has that nostalgic feel. But obviously, a key part of the game is the gameplay.
Yes.
And when the gameplay trailer was out, my first thoughts were it will be a bit like Uncharted or Tomb Raider. That was my. That's almost what.
Well, that's the benchmark, isn't it?
Tomb Raider as well.
Yeah, both Tomb Raider and Uncharted are very highly influenced by Indiana Jones. It is sort of like those games, but not as much as you'd think. Some of the linear sections, actually, there was one linear section that I was playing where I was sort of climbing around a tomb, and it did actually really sort of remind me of an Uncharted game. I thought this could almost be Nathan Drake doing this. It's almost a bit puzzly, actually, the traversal. You have to find a whip point to get onto. Later on in the game, you have to kind of throw arrows at big toadstools to latch onto to get across. And it is sort of reminiscent of the games in sort of places. But the game itself, it's not a first-person shooter like Machine Games is a lot of their earlier material. It's actually a first-person melee, a whip 'em up, I like to describe. You do have a gun, so you can do the whole iconic shoot someone when you can't be bothered to fight them, but ammo is quite scarce. It does expect you to use your fists and your whip the majority of the time. So it's not like Tomb Raider and Uncharted in those
But I
respects.
suppose that's respecting the source material a bit more, because you watch Indiana Jones and it is mostly whips and melee brawls. He uses a gun occasionally, but not very often.
Yeah, 100%. It's faithful, and it does make it feel a lot like indie, because it's sort of the matinee fights as well. You really, when he swings across, you're like, sound like a real middle-aged man doing this stuff, and he sucker punches people from time to time. It is, it's 100% faithful to the character, and it does work in the concept of the game. I will just actually quickly mention first person perspective. You'd expect the mouse and keyboard would be better. I normally only play first person games in mouse and keyboard. This is very clearly made for a control pad. You've got you got the right fist on the right trigger and the left. It just makes more sense to me with the control, and I never play first person.
First person games tend to be first person shooters, which is why they're better on a keyboard and mouse. But as you said earlier, it's not a shooter. It's more of a fist them up, whip them up. So I can understand why that would be an exception to the rule.
Yeah, 100%. Please carry on.
As we're recording this, we're watching some gameplay at the moment, and they're going through the jungle, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And I think you did say as well, for maps, it was a very good looking game. What about performance? How does it run?
Much better than it has any right to. It is a very well optimized game. Now it's only available on current gen consoles. They haven't
always helps though, doesn't it, when that's the case?
Yeah, it helps massively. And on the PC, you have to have a graphics card that supports some form of ray tracing just to get it to run, because by default it has that. You can obviously turn that up, and if you've got a better card, you can activate path tracing, which just makes the game look stunning. It looks amazing. And with I tested it on a 4090, which obviously is a pretty heavy duty card, but with DLSS, the upsampling, with the frame generation, I constantly had triple digit frame rates, apart from the cutscenes, which were limited to 60 frames per second for some reason. But it looked amazing. And then comparing it, I've also been playing Life is Strange Double Exposure lately. It looks nowhere near as good as this, and I barely get above 70 frames a second in that. It's terribly. So yeah, it's a really well optimized game, and it looks. I did actually play a little bit on the Xbox Series X as well, and it still looks pretty damn good even on that.
It makes you wonder then, because from everything you've said, it sounds like it is a very, very good game. Why haven't Microsoft been pushing it more? It seems like a bit of a strange decision, especially with release just before Christmas, because they push that forward a little bit more. It's on everyone's Christmas lists.
Yeah, it could easily have competed with it. To be frank, it's my game of the year. I know it's 2025 now, but I started playing it in 2024, and it
came out in 2024 as well.
Exactly, it was easily the best game I played last year. It just sneaks in at the end there. I think I can only speculate with Microsoft. Who knows with Microsoft? Even Microsoft doesn't know what Microsoft's doing half the time. I think half of it was because we'd seen some pretty high profile flops last year. There's the whole Concord debacle with Sony. They thought they had a mega hit on their hands, and look how that turned out. Then there was Star Wars Outlaws. Again, Ubisoft thought this was really going to save their bank balance, and it bombed.
The new Dragon Age as well, it also bombed.
Yeah, that wasn't really a crowd pleaser by any margin, but I think Microsoft were kind of
almost too worried.
Overcautious. Yeah. Overcautious. They thought they're going to push it out and people are going to say, oh, but why is it first person? Oh, but it's not really like indie. Oh, but it's, and then, like I said, there is a few questionable decisions here and there, like the missions that pop up when you can't do them. Yeah. There's another issue with the stealth, actually. It's got lots of stealth in it. You can put costumes on, disguises on, like a bit like a Hitman game. There's like one or two disguises you can find on each of the hubs. It just leaves you wishing that the levels have just been designed a bit more for stealth. Why aren't there cupboards that you can stuff the bodies in? Why aren't? Why
is there a little afterthought? They thought at the end, why don't we add a bit of stealth to this?
Well, yeah, I think maybe they didn't plan on the stealth brigade leaning that heavily into the stealth, because indie employs a bit of stealth now and then, but he's a straight up fight guy. Whereas some people will play the game like that and probably won't even notice. But the stealth is still good, and combat is you can set the game so the combat is quite easy. That's another interesting move actually that the game makes. You can choose to limit the difficulty of the combat, and you can also choose to limit the complexity of the puzzles.
That's interesting. You have the two different sliders in that case. That some people might want it more combat heavy, but not wanting to faff around doing the puzzles and vice versa. So that is actually a nice design decision.
And it also kind of harks back to the Fate of Atlantis, which was the point and click game, which kind of let you choose a more combat heavy route or a puzzle route. So it's I don't know whether that was deliberate, but it just lets you play the game how you want to play it. And because it is just Indiana Jones the simulator, if you like the films, you're going to like this.
So, last question I have then is, how long did it take you to complete?
So, I think it was about 23 hours. That was completing, obviously, all of the story missions, quite a bit of the side content. I think I did all of the major side missions, which were called field work in this. There were lots of smaller, what they deemed mysteries. Oh, there's so many collectibles in this game. And that is... I mean, I suppose it's nice that they're there, but they really did go a bit overboard. It's a bit like, especially once you get the upgrades that let you see that on your map. It's just, and actually, once you finish the game as well, it actually shows you in your vision as you're playing, so you can collect this stuff. A lot of the collectibles aren't really worth very much, other than for people who just like collecting stuff. I would have liked them to take a bit of a modern approach with that, really.
Sometimes you can't have too much in terms of collectibles.
Yeah. But it's just, I can't remember what the question is, but...
It was how many hours? And I think you said
that's right,
23 hours.
23. But it would be a lot more if... There we go. That's the connection. It would have been a lot more if I'd have bothered to get all those collectibles. But I will just add this. I know I keep adding stuff, but I just can't say enough good things about this game. You can actually travel to other hubs and even the linear sections. You can travel to those at any point in the game.
So you can go back on yourself and go back to the other moments you liked and just re-explore them.
Yeah, there's no narrative explanation for that. It doesn't need to be. You play the game, and sometimes you want to go back, I want to, do some finishing off in the Vatican or pick up some more of the books which upgrade your abilities. But you can do that and then just resume
where you were.
And, more games should really be designed with that sort of game first, and, we'll not worry about the narrative reason for that.
Some people, they really like turning off everything, so you have to find stuff organically. Like, I know there's a Witcher 3 crowd who are very much like that. Yeah. I mean, it's a game, it's not a walking simulator, it's nice to know where you're heading, but it's nice to have them options, so it's good that games, like you say, put gameplay first.
And that's the thing, you can set it to be more hardcore as well. If you set those puzzles up high and the combat up high, then you do have actually a much more hardcore experience than you may normally have, yes.
So I think for the moment of truth then, what is the score?
Well, I've thought long and hard about this. A lot of people don't like scores. We don't shy away from scores here. I'm going to say 89%.
That's a very respectable score.
It's a very good score. Some people may be saying, well, hang on, you said it was your game of the year. Why isn't it 90 plus? Well, that's because I wish the stealth was better. I don't like the fact that sometimes missions try and let you do them when you can't get to those sections. Like I say, the collectibles are just a bit of a mess. But overall, just as a package, and I probably should keep saying, a lot of the reason I like this game so much is because it is Indiana Jones a simulator. There are probably people out there who aren't really into Indiana Jones. I can't, for the life of me, imagine who these people.
Yeah,
exactly. What? Who are these people? I would imagine they would probably be less enthusiastic about the game because if you take away the fact it's Indiana Jones,
and you have that nostalgia,
it's still a really solid game. But perhaps those bits, there's checkpointing as well. It is good checkpointing, but you can't save anywhere. I think that's criminal in the majority of games these days. But as I say, unlike a lot of games, the checkpointing is quite good, so I won't ding it too much for that. But it is a very, really respectable game underneath there, but it's just elevated by the fact that it is Indiana Jones, and it just nails that 100%.
Which is a key part of it being an Indiana Jones game.
It helps.
Yeah, it does. You don't want to play an Indiana Jones game and not be playing as Indy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, co-starring Lara Croft.
Yeah.
I should probably mention as well, because I know this has become a big issue now. In terms of political correctness, there was surprisingly little of that in the game. The love interest. She's a strong female character, but no stronger than, say, Marion was in the original indie film. So, it's actually, and she does actually require rescuing from time to time. Dun, dun, dun. It's always extraordinary to see these old-fashioned matinee tropes playing out in a modern-day big-budget game. There is a little bit of political credit, because I remember you were asking me about this before. There's a character in the middle who sort of goes out of her way to tell you she has a female partner, to which, if that was real life, you'd say, well, why is it you're telling me that?
Yeah, that's why does
exact moment. Yeah, there's like literally a whole battalion of Nazis outside that tent, and you're telling me about your love life right now. That's really the only thing I spotted in this game.
And like you say, for a big budget game to have that little political correctness, I mean, you don't really see it much these days.
Could it be the developers and publishers are learning? Could it be? Well, we'll revisit that question at the end of the year. But yeah, 89% even. Very good. Buy it, or better still, if you've got Game Pass, play it as part of your subscription.
I know it's next on my list to play, and you've set very high expectations.
And it's even coming out on the PlayStation 5 as part of Microsoft's all-platform, kind of them giving up on the Xbox, in the spring. So if you've got a PS5 and not a PC and an Xbox, you should 100% be supporting that game with your money.